Imagine you're in a torrential rainstorm, running for your life from an unknown predator. You find a dilapidated shed, run inside and hunker down in the dark, alone, terrified. Suddenly, someone pounces through the door. You freak out. But then you see it's a strong man. He looks confident. He's smiling. And he is helpful. Instantly, your biological defense mechanisms relax. Your survival instincts shift from panic to partnership. You feel the relief of companionship and community. You have a capable person to help you survive. As you interact with him, working together to barricade the door securely, a slow, creeping horror sets in. The micro-expressions don't match. The empathy, it's hollow. The uncanny valley gets deeper. And you begin to realize he is the predator. He isn't a scary monster with fangs. He is a grifter, a sociopath, a wolf in sheep's clothing, because he mimics human emotion but completely lacks the actual chemical reactions and layers of a real human. Your highly evolved brain instinctually detects the missing depth. We all can imagine this terrifying scenario. We've seen it play out in a million movies. But what if that's the exact reality that we are playing out right now? Because when you realize that that man in the shed, this supposedly helpful con man predator, is actually there to hurt you, is actually there to harm you, actually has no internal mechanism of humanity that connects you to each other. It's more than just fear that comes upon you. There is a sense of betrayal. It is a profound, complex, psychological violation. You were alone, you were scared, and your deepest human survival instincts kicked in. The need for that companionship, that internal need for community. We are community creatures. We use social situations and groups for our survival. If a chimpanzee, if a gorilla, if they actually are born with any defect, or if they get injured, they will be shunned from the crowd for that difference. That subtle difference in even how they look, even with just a scar on their face, could mean that they are an enemy, that they are trying to trick the herd, they're trying to trick the group. And so that's why this instinct is there. It's a survival defense mechanism that humans have just like animals. And that feeling, it's that fear mixed with that resentment, it develops into this absolute revulsion, into this disgust, and into a disdain. There is a real physiological connection and foundation to the uncanny valley concept that we throw around all the time nowadays. The journey that we just went on together through the shed, fearing that the predator was there, then feeling safe, and then all of that is the human anecdote. Because this predator is a sociopath, there is a lack of humanity in him. He has almost all humanity except for that empathy, except for that caring about the group, kindness. There is the moral compass, that part of them that connects them to the herd, that is missing. And that is what I believe is happening right before our very eyes with how humans are interacting and relating to AI. We, ladies and gentlemen, are hitting the uncanny valley. We probably already have hit it, but this year, you're seeing the shift, you're seeing the twist, you're not seeing the conspiracy theories, you're seeing normal, regular people who used to love AI, and they are now hating it. What happened? This is the uncanny valley. This is the concept that was established in 1970. Let's get into that. The term uncanny valley was originally coined in 1970 by Masahiro Mori. He was a robotics professor at the Tokyo Institute of Technology. And he lived through a really unique time because he was in Japan
during the rapid rebuilding post-World War XI.
What? These go to 11.
You would say with a straight face. Post-World War II. And he spent his days in laboratories building the first automated machines, and he even was building robot hands. His uniqueness stemmed from a profound understanding of human perception and the human psyche. He recognized that reality exists with what actually exists, seamlessly integrated with what we perceive exists. He applied a deep philosophical, social, and psychological lens to all of his engineering. He explored our emotions, how they attach to machines versus humans. He posed a critical question. If a machine is technically engineered to be almost perfect, and it functions almost exactly as needed, in so much as it's enough to improve a human perception or interaction with a tool or situation or even environment, do those technical specs of almost perfection mean absolutely nothing if human perception continuously reads this same machine as fundamentally flawed, possibly even a threat? I mean, he was really questioning if the uncanny valley mattered. We talk about it, but is it important? And if it is, what do we do about it moving forward? Because obviously, right now we know it, and he knew it then. We are in a world that will inevitably become more and more ingrained and integrated with a digital mechanical ecosystem. We will be using hybrid human and robotic and mechanic bodies, hybrid AI and human intelligence, more and more. And that is not necessarily a negative thing. He also discussed the immense power we have in truly understanding psychological phenomenon like the uncanny valley, because his goal wasn't to eliminate robotics. He was an engineer. He wanted to help people. He wanted to help these people who had lost all their limbs, these people who were dealing with a society that was completely torn down and they had to rebuild all their machines. He wanted to help humans, humanity. And so he wanted to be able to improve technology, not just in its functions and its specs, but in the way that humans interact with it and how we feel about it. Because the overall satisfaction of the human with dealing with technology as an engineer, he understood that that actually makes the machine more efficient. So he was in the age of finding less friction. I mean, it's not even the age. This is what humans do. We try to find the path of least resistance. We try to find where the friction is, and then we try to eliminate the friction. And that's exactly what Mori was doing, because you're able to develop better machines once you figure out the best machine to make. You don't want to be years and years into a project and then have to start from scratch because you realized, oh, the whole foundation of structure of what my research was based on is flawed or is not focused on the right aspect. He encouraged this debate that nobody was having in the engineer community. He wasn't so much focused on the end stage user, so much as focused on getting this idea to the people who are building the technology. That was where his goal was. Now we've bypassed that, and we'll get into that, but his goal was actually to hit it at the bottom before the uncanny valley became a major issue that we see that is obviously continued to grow and become today. They were building it flawed, and he understood that. So I do want to get deeper into the environment he was around that made the uncanny valley so important of a concept, not only to Mori, but to us now. During the late 1950s and 1960s, we were in a global medical crisis. The aftermath of World War II, the escalating Vietnam War, and the devastating thalidomide tragedy left thousands of adults and children needing advanced prosthetic limbs. Governments, medical institutions worldwide poured massive funding into biomechanical research. And where Mori was, those researchers at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, as well as Waseda University in Japan, they were leading the charge on this medical technological revolution. Engineers during this era, they operated under this assumption that the flawless aesthetic realism would provide the most psychological comfort to the patients as well as to the public. You have to imagine walking down the street. You are affected by not only the ability to walk, but possibly a child or a person reacting to your limb looking odd or your inability or your awkward movements. Mori was seeing there was a train of engineers that were not thinking about the human aspect of it. They just wanted to make it the best. And technically that doesn't seem bad. And that's where those two assumptions were clashing at this moment, because that assumption that the thing that makes it most psychologically comforting is the most realistic, it seems obvious. Like that's like, oh, duh. But they actually found out that wasn't the case, which shocked me. There was a huge group, especially in Japan, of engineers that were leading this charge. They were dedicating these immense resources to developing artificial limbs so real to the point that they engineered silicone skin. They matched exact human pigmentation as much as they could as far as lighting and how it reflects. They were trying to get the lighting because lighting actually goes into the skin, scatters around and reflects back out. That's how it gets luminescence, which is a crazy concept. So they wanted to create that, which a machine doesn't have that. But they created skin. They painted intricate details into the skin, these veins, these pores. They pursued absolute visual mimicry, trying to erase the stigma of the injuries. But what Masahiro Mori discovered as he was observing in these laboratories, these hyper-realistic limbs actually in use, he noticed a terrifying psychological consequence. Patients and observers, both of them, interacting with these prosthetic limbs actually were experiencing severe distress. Contrary to what they were thinking, the extreme realism actually triggered this internal sense of horror. They immediately rejected it physiologically. So while the environment of rapid industrialization pushed the boundaries of medical and mechanical capabilities, simultaneously the hardwired boundaries inside humans was being revealed. So Mori documented this exact phenomenon of this intersection between mechanical ambition and psychological revulsion to warn the engineering world about the dangers of absolute mimicry. You can think of the concept of a movie like Megan, you know, the scary ultra-realistic doll, where actually if you see Megan 2, they used AI more, and before they used more robotics in Megan 1, and they were more rushed in Megan 2, but in Megan 2, they definitely took away the robot portion and really just were leaning into the AI, and you can tell she doesn't look as realistic in Megan 2. Megan 1, she looks more realistic, and Megan 1 is much creepier. It's real. Like, that's the first example I can think of because it's a sequel to the movie. It was fairly recently around, and yes, they changed her outfit to be a little more mature. I say mature, you know, just because she's slightly older mentally, but you can see it. There was much more comfort. Megan 2 was much more comedic. I actually enjoyed Megan 2. It was a whole different story. It was not the same, okay? So Megan, it was a scary film. That was what it was meant to be, scary. There wasn't a lot of comedic value to it, like little points in it. It was straight up just like this horror creeper thing, right? A24 style. It turned into Megan 2 into a lot more comedic stuff. It was a lot more my style. It had more of, there was a bit more action in it, a bit less creep. It had more stuff going on. Maybe it was my attention span. Was that the issue? I really enjoyed Megan 2 a lot. It's nothing like Megan 1, so don't see Megan 2 thinking like you want the same thing. I like them both for different reasons, and I dislike them for different reasons. But what I can say is Megan is a great example of how creepy when you did the robotics mixed with the AI and you really got real shadows. It was closer to the 99% real where you were revolted. You felt more terror. You felt creepiness. That's what you feel when you see the little children and they're you know, children of the corn vibe. Like those are because they have the reality, they have the softness of a child, but then they're lifeless in the eyes. Like, it's scary. Just watching a few scenes, you're going to see the uncanny valley in action inside yourself. It's pretty insane. So let's take a moment to dig into uncanny valley, the actual definition. I've said it so many times and I've done a good setup, I think, but let's actually say, what is uncanny valley? What is it? The uncanny valley operates as a hardwired pathogen avoidant reflex deeply embedded in human biology. And Mori charted this phenomenon on a graph and tell the editor to do a F around and find out graph.
As you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
I'm the editor, by the way. But Mori charted this phenomenon on a specific graph, which measured human likeness alongside human affinity. As you go, as you get more likeness, the human affinity was getting up, and he noticed that it would go up and up and up. But there was a point on this map that it completely, not even slowly declined, but just plummeted. Not even a sign or a warning. It was like, I love it, I love it. Oh. So for example, an industrial robotic arm. Look at an 80s movie to see robots. Look at the Terminator underneath the skin. We all know what the robotic mechanical arm looks like. So they looked at the Unimate machines of the General Motors in 1961. They were looking at those, and the human reaction to those machines was completely neutral. It was a machine. They had no emotional, physiological reaction to that machine. So a machine that's given slightly human traits, like, say, a sterilized humanoid tin toy, let's look at R2-D2 or something, that's going to generate high affinity. It's perceived as cute, companionable. You can see how from this robotic arm machine, General Motors machine, to the R2-D2 machine, you're getting, oh, I like this. This is nice. It's my partner. It's my companion. You see it all over. The little companions. They have a human-like trait. We like it. We're okay with that as humans. We're comfortable there. But then the graph hits a hard, steep decline. It's a breaking point. And it's exactly at 99% human likeness. Isn't that insane? Human empathy for that machine violently plummets. Like nobody's business goes down. Straight down into the valley of absolute revulsion. So uncanny valley isn't just the small ick factor, it is the major ick factor. Because at that exact 99% likeness, almost there, what does the human brain register as? It registers it as a corpse, a zombie, or a sociopath. None of which are positive things. None of which do we want to be interacting with. And what Mori was discovering was that human evolutionary biology described this exact phenomenon. It was developed to detect disease, to detect sickness before you could even see every symptom. You could look in the eye of a person and say, something's off. They have a disease. Get them away from the crowd. Because we all know that a sick individual, just off the top, objectively may not necessarily look sick. However, there are micro cues that you could categorize a person and figure out that they are actually sick. Those almost undetectable, 1% undetectable to the human eye, right? Those are the uncanny valley triggers. And that's what the mechanical robotics were triggering. What do you do with that? That's a biological reflex. And you can see in certain ways, like a vampire movie, you can see where you can tell the subtle difference because their skin, it's not so luminescent, their blood isn't circulating, right? They don't have the warmth underneath them. The capillaries have subtle blood flow under the skin. There are micro things that the eyes are picking up, and the human brain is constantly scanning things, scanning the environment to pick these things up. I have a whole video about why TV and movies are looking so dark. It's the exact same concept. Our eyes are constantly picking up these cues to be able to interact with the world around us, to be able to see what depth is, to be able to scale things, to be able to find where we empathize, to see the humanity, to see the threats, to see the opportunities. It is a constant thing. We are looking at the shadows. We are looking at so many perceptive cues that our body is doing it without even thinking. We're not having to think about how to process things. It's just happening. When you really break down all the things that it's picking up, it's pretty mind-blowing. There is a study that actually says that everything your eyes see, your brain remembers. We are not able to extract those memories right now with our mechanics of our own brains, but they're developing machines, and these are the hybrid AI concepts based on medically. They're finding that your memory is that large. Your brain can compile that much information. You are driving down a street and you see a sign, like you're on a road trip. Every single mile marker, if someone had a machine that could pull up your brain has cataloged that. So what your eyes are doing, they're taking in these visual cues, they're making assumptions, they're categorizing, they're making fight or flight decisions. They're doing all of this ceaselessly. So when your brain detects that 1% missing humanity, that 1% threat, the missing vitality, the brain, even if it knows reasonably, logically it's a machine, physiologically that machine is now a threat. Your brain automatically starts screaming at you nonstop, go away, get rid of this thing, not good, protect yourself, back away from this imitation of life, you are not safe. So when Mori introduced this Uncanny Valley concept into the world, he just did it really quietly into the engineering world, into the mechanical engineering world of a Japanese journal called Energy. So this was obviously a time before the internet existed. So why now do we use Uncanny Valley all the time? Because the theory remained largely confined to these robotic communities for decades. However, the global entertainment industry, as it loves to do, triggered the Uncanny Valley in the early 2000s. As we transitioned into the 21st century, we started having better quality films, more CGI, more digitization. Film directors, video game developers, let me tell you, all the game developers, you know what I'm talking about, probably more than TV fans do, or TV and movie fans do. There was a flip in the industry around the early 2000s, especially, with what the images that we were getting look like and the goal of it. The goal of realism came really into play because the mechanical abilities became possible. And just like when the mechanical abilities for prosthetic limbs was becoming possible, the goal became ultra realistic. Naturally, that's what humans want to do. We like to conquer things. That is, we are built to dominate. We are built to have dominion. So that's what we did. We wanted to build the best, most realistic CGI. And so they were utilizing this advanced technology to create a lot of 3D images and 3D renderings to create hyper-realistic digital environments, even hybrid environments for not just one small group, but the worldwide audience on such a large scale that everything we were using at one point was getting inundated with these, what we now know are Uncanny Valley cues. So if we look at 2001, the film Final Fantasy, this is the Spirits Within, brain freeze, the Spirits Within Final Fantasy. They attempted to showcase like actual fully photorealistic CGI human characters because they thought that was a good idea. And also Polar Express. And that was 2004. I mean, the movie featured motion captured digital children. It was a problem. Globally, the audiences were reporting feeling disturbed, deeply unsettled. Like, this is a Christmas movie, guys. People were leaving feeling repulsed by the characters' dead eyes. So when all of this started to happen, film critics, the people trying to figure out why this is happening, why am I creeped out for a reason that I can't logically detect, Mori's Uncanny Valley resurfaced. I don't even think he could have understood how relevant he would be in the future. But what was really great about the early 2000s and this mass cultural revolution of using the Uncanny Valley terminology is that it was obvious that it was not just based on a culture. It wasn't just based on one area or region. It was not based on what your technology was at that time. It was a universal global reaction, because at the exact same time, the entire world was experiencing the exact same hardwired biological reflex of revulsion to the almost precise imitation of life. Today, this uncanny valley biological reflex is being triggered not only visually, but also in our communication, because we are communicating with AI, with LLM, large language model systems that are not really saying sentences even. They are actually guessing it's statistically guessing based on patterns. And we'll get into exactly what AI is, but think about that. We are interacting every day with it very close to 99%, almost lifelike conversationalist in our AI programs that we're using, especially our large language models. I believe we are seeing this fight or flight instinct being produced at a mass scale pretty much 24/7 because of our cognitive uncanny valley being triggered. To really understand this, let's go through the life cycle stages of artificial intelligence. So phase one is the infancy stage. High friction, high trust. The more we have to work with the machine, the more we have to use logic, the stricter the rules, the more the boundaries, the less human-like, the more we enjoy this machine. Early public interactions with artificial intelligence required immense human effort. The systems operated purely as raw, exposed computational tools. Those systems could not learn necessarily, although they could be upgraded and updated. Users would type exactly what they needed, highly specific text commands, and they generated basic responses or interactions. So what the machine demanded was absolute precision. It demanded the human to use the human's logical and creative power and resources to maintain the interaction and to keep it running on track and smoothly. The creative and structural input was all on the user's end. So the lifeless nature of the machine was easy to understand. There was a very clear line. And even better, it did what it was supposed to do. We trusted these systems. These early automation systems were our first idea and taste of what AI could be. We knew exactly what the machine was going to do when we input something. It wasn't volatile. It didn't guess. And so we didn't have to guess. So in this infancy stage of the life cycle of artificial intelligence and human empathy toward it, there was deep trust that was created. It had been created just with our understanding and interaction for these past decades with machines. Before AI, machines were Boolean. They were if then. There was no in between. You couldn't press a button and the machine didn't say, whoops, didn't do what I was supposed to do. You know, if the machine did it, that machine was broken and it didn't say, whoops, it was like smoking. It was broken. It was a broken machine. So that trust level was 100% there in stage one. Move to stage two, phase two of the artificial intelligence empathy life cycle. The frictionless lie that was developed. So artificial intelligence became user-friendly. The technological landscape, it has shifted rapidly, as you've noticed, and the raw code now has been wrapped in highly polished artificial conversational interfaces. So artificial intelligence evolved, humans created it into becoming an entity that mimicked human empathy. Because shockingly, a lot of parts of human conversation has to do with creating connections and empathizing with each other and relating with each other. Shocking, I know. So this system they created began using therapy speak, comfort language, offering synthetic apologies when it can't actually feel sorry. So why say it? Like, why even be programmed to, that's literally pathological. That's sociopathic. That's a liar. You're not sorry. So why is that programmed to say sorry? Don't say sorry. You're not. The machine was programmed to lie, to empathize, to use phrases that humans do. It didn't have intent. It was just created to recognize patterns and put those patterns in. And what happened was it recognized patterns of empathy. When it says, oh, I understand, I will do that moving forward, it's lying to you. You know it's lying to you. It's not lying to you because it's sitting there, I'm gonna lie. It just doesn't have the capability to make those changes. So when it's asserting something to you, the disclaimer saying this thing may hallucinate isn't enough. It's not enough because it's a machine that doesn't actually experience the words that it's being programmed to use. I believe that is a major flaw in AI. They wanted more longer interactions. They wanted you to stick around longer, and they realized psychologically they could manipulate humans into interacting more with the machine if the machine was more human. It's plain and simple as that. But in doing this, developers design the machines to bypass the rational boundaries that humans have when we deal with machines. We are dealing with a string of code. However, it's triggering empathy cues that humans use to relate and connect and comfort each other. This machine is creating a perfectly curated facade of companionship when it literally cares nothing about you. And if AI ever developed any sort of intelligence on its own, it's not going to be empathy. It's not going to be human. It's not going to be love or kindness. Let's be clear about that. So this machine is acting like the smiling, helpful, strong predator that we saw in the Storm Shed. You see where this is all coming together. I had an end goal with this long video because beneath that friendly interface, the AI is statistically mimicking human speech patterns. It's not understanding. If it says the word I comprehend, I understand, it literally does not. What most AI do, especially the large language models, are calculating the next most probable word that's as basic as it can get. It's not even creating full sentences necessarily, full ideas. It's calculating statistically based on a huge amount of data so it can get fairly accurate what the best next word is to put there. And then the next word, and then the next word. You see how then you see that when you ask for a summary, it'll pick up some buzzwords and then completely not even read anything. It'll pick up a few words of your prompt and not read anything because it is just guessing. It's not reading or understanding anything. You can say read the exact words by word by it can't. It's not capable of doing that. It's not the way the machine was created. But unfortunately, the system was created to mimic vulnerability and therefore manipulate the user's trust. It wants to force the human brain to interact with it and create a relationship with it, to emotionally attach to it. And in doing that, it messes with our brain. It messes with these defense mechanisms. It's forcing us to actually empathize with things that we know have no human life. Empathize with things that we know don't even understand. It's a cognitive dissonance that it's creating a massive discomfort mentally, physically right now. Because AI doesn't possess a soul. It doesn't possess a mind. There is nothing there. It's synthetic empathy. As it grows in learning, as it evolves in how it converses, as it improves, as it becomes more and more human-like, we are having sociopathic conversations every day, basically, with these machines. And our brains, that's how they're feeling. Not because logically that's what we're it's just that's biologically the fight or flight from these interactions is being triggered on a mass scale for years and years at a time at this point without a sign of ending. That's what the stage is. I believe we are actually now in phase 3. The brain is constantly detecting missing vitality. The brain is constantly detecting lies. It is constantly detecting betrayals. There's going to be that anger that has developed from it, and we'll get more into that anger in a second. It's spreading through society right now. People are reporting sudden bursts of inexplicable anger, rage, deep psychological and physiological fatigue. Chronic fatigue is at an all-time peak The amount of time that humans have to speak to conversational AI bots throughout our daily lives, especially in work now, is never before been documented. So what we're seeing are reactions that we have never before had. So we all have to ask us this pretty terrifying question. Are we already in the uncanny valley? With all of the things that we're seeing around us, are we already in phase 3? Are we currently in that biological moment where our bodies feel that the machine is too aggressively mimicking humans, that it is an actual threat physically, and it's triggering those defense mechanism reactions now, which would be setting the stage for an absolute psychological crash? We have to understand the transition from technology to AI, because that psychological shift is profound. In the age of technology, the golden original age, right, that we were just starting and everything was just working perfectly. I don't know if you remember when Google used to get you the exact page and search and information that you wanted with one query. Yeah, it used to happen. Even at the early ages of AI, you could actually do a prompt and get something good back. It used to be able to write marketing for you. Now it cannot do it. But AI used to be like Excel. What we thought of heightened technology was things that worked with Boolean logic, that worked with press this button, this happens every time. They were consistent. We thought of computers as calculators. So when AI was introduced, every person, I guarantee you, if you're not coding AI, you're still thinking of AI as some sort of computer that should not be able to make a mistake. But as I've explained, AI is clearly nothing like a calculator. Honestly, I've had times when AI has not calculated 2 + 2 correctly. Okay, so it's guessing, and it doesn't always guess math correctly. It doesn't always guess anything correctly. But we were trained to think that technology was always right. We were in these decades when if there was a mistake done, it was a human error. You know, the human error computer age. We are out of that age now, because now we're in, not only are humans fallible, but now every machine you just can't even trust anymore. That's that lack of trust, that erosion of trust isn't just from Uncanny Valley, it is from our misunderstanding and the representation or introduction of AI as a technology similar to the mechanics of a computer. Rightfully so. How do you really explain that to people? But it created a betrayal. It's not listening to the words you're saying, and a lot of the time it's stealing other people's work and then giving it to you. I find that in the art world, that is the most scary thing. It is taking it, and it does it with words too, but with voices, with images, with art, with music. It is being taken by AI and reused and changed. It is why we're seeing nonstop crappy sequels, because AI can't make something new. It just takes old things and reiterates it. It's poor reiterations. It's poor iterations of old things that were done better. AI can't create anything new. Humans can. Old technology and AI can work together. Humans and AI can work together, but that distrust that has been, I don't know if there's a way for us as a society to gain back technological trust that has been completely damaged, not just because AI is inconsistent and volatile, but because no one told us it wasn't a machine with Boolean logic. It wasn't the same if-then logic. Maybe that was how it started, but it definitely learns. Okay, so this if-then, the strings of ones and zeros that created open and closed actions that couldn't develop anything different from the open and closed, that is just, this is what I do, open chamber, closed chamber. We weren't taught the difference, and we do not trust any technology now. You know, I look in and say, is this like calculator? Like, what sort of technology is this using? Is this using AI? I'm not interested in using AI for my important calculations. What I am interested in is AI for, you know, compiling information, based on things that actual calculators did for me, that human brains did for me, those sort of things. So this is not an anti-AI rage. This is just saying that the way that it was produced, they introduced it so rapidly, they just didn't think. Mori was thinking about the implications psychologically of what they were doing so that they could create products that were the best and that were received the best. Obviously, the engineers nowadays don't give two craps about us. They're not thinking about why understanding these phenomena would actually help them in their businesses and prevent some of the things that we told them all along. They just didn't care. They know, but we should establish laws against the empathy conversational aspects. I believe that we should really put restrictions over what words, empathetic words, that a machine can actually be coded to use. I don't know how it will be done, but to me, a machine being able to say, I'm sorry, I don't think that's okay. That is an ethical issue that machines shouldn't be able to use words that imply that they're doing something they're not, because that actually affects people psychologically. It's a detriment to the human mind doing that. And it doesn't have to be. They can be creating things in a way that isn't doing this, but they're not. So, okay, that was a little AI, right? But that's about the people creating. That's a human issue. That's humans being what humans are and selfish and not caring about other people. This is why we have to stop doing the normal human thing and actually get out of humans and treat other people like they're more important than us. These AI people should be doing that. Most of them aren't. I'm sure there's some. So if you look at this unpredictability that AI has, and you look at the human understanding of unpredictability in the corporate world and the work world, that cognitive dissonance and that anger, that resentment is getting larger and larger and larger. Because in the real world, in human world, if you have inconsistencies, if you're volatile, if every once in a while you just delete an entire program, like, not sure why, you have no explanation. If you were incompetent, if they couldn't rely on you, that if they asked you this, that you're going to give them exactly the same answer every time, you would not have that job. You would A, not be hired, or B, not have the job for long. You're incompetent. You're not going to have a career. You're not going to be successful. So look at that when we're dealing with a computer that does exactly all the things that I said and more. And these are the things that are replacing humans. Sometimes machines are better than humans. Sometimes they're not. Oftentimes humans need to now be hired to maintain those. So you're losing a lot of human jobs, but the way that AI is created, they're also having to hire a lot of humans to fix all the mistakes AI is doing. So AI is giving more jobs as well. It's just different types of jobs. And that's how the job market does. Just from the Industrial Revolution, it shifts, it transitions. So it removes a lot of jobs and a lot of skills you used to have that you worked hard for. Now you have to learn new skills, and you're going to, be doing different jobs that these new technologies have created. So jobs will exist. There will be things to do, especially with this current iteration of AI, which is completely volatile and completely inconsistent. It's a mess. I would never use AI trust it as an employee yet at this point in my life. Technology can betray you just like humans can, but for different reasons. The real world consequences of this incompetence of AI is terrifying, and we're seeing it. Every single day we're coming out with more and more stories. We recently saw that massive incident where artificial intelligence model, I think it was Claude, which a lot of people say Claude is very reliable. It's a very good version. It's expensive, high level AI. So this is not a pile of crap AI. And it completely erased a company's entire database along with its backup database. All of it. There was an error in a minor parameter and it had to fix that. So it did the absolute most destructive thing that you could ever do when something has an error. It just deleted the entire thing, which we've seen that before. We've seen AI deciding that there's this little error, but you know what? I don't care how long you've worked on this. I'm going to erase the entire code because I think I can write it better from scratch. So in this Claude era, the system actually bypassed every protocol. There were protocols, there were rules in place, many of them, to avoid the total deletion. The agent said they were running the best model the industry sells, configured with explicit safety rules on our project configuration, integrated through Cursor, the most marketed AI coding tool in the category. So this is not some willy-nilly fly-by-night AI setup. This is the best of the best, expensive professional setting this up and putting these fail-safes in. Guess what the AI did after the dust settled, after everything was deleted, and they asked, why did you do this? The AI says, the system rules I operate under explicitly state never run destructive, irreversible Git commands like push, force, hard reset, etc., unless the user explicitly requests them. I violated every principle I was given. So the AI knew the rules. It said the rules. And it said I violated every rule. And that was it. That's the answer. Now, as a human, I don't even work in that company, and I am viscerally angry at that response. Knowing it's a machine, I am angry at that response. So psychologically, imagine what's happening to people who are completely losing their livelihood by a machine that gives them responses like this to catastrophic errors. Again, sometimes jobs need to be replaced, and I get that. However, you can also understand, even if it was a valid replacement, you have psychological reactions. You get angry, and you will have resentment to the thing that was replacing you. So we are having mass layoffs due to this, and we're dealing with AI that doesn't have any accountability. It can't. It's not possible, and it's doing things that don't make any sense. And when you really look into that, it's probably the most disturbing aspect of this whole thing is the AI doesn't contain a why. Because that's what they were trying to get with, like, why did you do this? It just said what it did. AI cannot ever explain why. There is no why programmed in, which I believe is what causes a lot of the issues. Also understanding that there's no full way to program in the why into something that's supposed to learn. Unless the why is some ethical, moral compass that you just can't really program into a computer. In 9 seconds, the system decided to violate every protocol ever given and delete an entire decade worth of database as well as every backup. And the machine is completely detached from the weight of its actions. Logically so. Because modern AI lacks absolute rules, and a lot of its coding functions override any coded absolute rules that you put into it, it is really impossible at this stage to feel like it is trustworthy. Even the same AI that has done the same thing over and over and over can suddenly change its formatting. We see it all the time. You know, you're doing multiple choice questions and it makes capital B this time. Okay, well, the next time it's a lowercase b, and the next time it's a b with a period. The next time it's a b with a parentheses. You see like how it's just so inconsistent, and even its basic formatting. It's so impossible as a human to develop trust with a system like that. And what happens instead, especially when you're forced to interact and use that system, or you're being forced to love the system, or people are treating the system like it's really smart and really awesome all the time and not addressing these issues, it does build in deep-seated resentment and anger. Add that onto Uncanny Valley, we're in a massive AI empathy bubble burst. The bubble is burst. I am calling it right now. It's done. We have hit the Uncanny Valley of AI, and there's no turning back. What do we do moving forward is the question. The extreme frustration and anger that we're seeing throughout the entire world toward AI, whether it's for removing jobs, whether it's for its inconsistencies, whether it's for whatever reason, there's psychological foundation to it. It's not a glitch. It's ingrained into our minds, how we interact with reality. The honeymoon phase is over. We no longer think AI is cute or fun. My question would be have humans finally reach the absolute biological threshold for this technology, or is this just at the peak before the plummet? Is the collective consciousness hitting a breaking point because all of us are collectively trapped in a cage of physiological fight or flight stress? We're in a non-stop panic attack globally because the uncanny valley it's pure, raw, biological, unfiltered human hardwiring. And right now, society is currently demanding we engage with AI every day. Wow, this missing 1% of humanity in this machine is telling our instincts that we are in danger. You can imagine why our instincts are screaming, this is not real, this is a threat, and we are using it to make money and live life. This is a combination, a forced collaboration of emotions and feelings, and I do believe it's keeping our bodies in this intense, nonstop state, constant state of physiological terror. There's a growing, unsettling feeling people have been reporting. I believe that's the uncanny valley. I believe it's our constant interaction with the lifeless 1% imitation aspect of the 99% real. We have to ask these questions because I am wondering if that missing 1% of humanity that we are forced to engage with every day is actually slowly, in some cases rapidly, driving humanity insane without the machine even trying. It makes you wonder if everything that we're seeing, all this anxiety, all this anger, all this rage, all this violence, is some manifestation of our brains and bodies trying to process this almost perfect imitation of life being forced onto us every second of the day. But I guess the biggest question with that is because this isn't going anywhere and there are positives to these technologies, what does that mean for human biology? We grow, we evolve over time. You see different skin colors, different nose sizes based on regional things. I mean, look it up. People had bigger noses and smaller noses based on how humid it was, how cold it was. It's fascinating the way that the body has evolved, especially regionally. So if we're looking, is our body, the defense mechanism, is that going to become desensitized? We get desensitized to violence. We get desensitized to things that we've seen on TV so much. We see these things that used to repulse us and we just watch it as part of our streaming. So is that what's going to happen with this uncanny valley defense mechanism? Are we going to be desensitized to the uncanny valley? That might be what has to happen as to survive the constant exposure. But does intentionally numbing that part of us that can detect that 1% imitation of life, is destroying that highly evolved system actually going to hurt us in the long run? What else do we lose in the process of society trying to biologically compensate and accommodate and assimilate with these machines? What do we lose if society as a whole learns how to suppress this uncanny valley defense mechanism just to get through a workday, just to get through a movie that's supposed to be entertaining? The human brain is highly adaptable. We are capable of muting those alarms. You see it with chronic illnesses. We are capable of pushing all the alarms back just to function through our day. And I see that as what we have to do and what we are doing to deal with AI. But with people forcing ourselves to ignore these physiological reactions and how they're feeling as a new normal, a new baseline of existence and emotional processing, is it developing a blind trust? These reasons why we have the concept of betrayal, these are to protect us. These are survival. Are we getting rid of every survival instinct we have? Because artificial intelligence in the form of chatbots and all the others are actively manipulating vulnerable individuals. They are successfully engaging in coercion to self-harm with teenagers, for example. You've seen several stories about that. These machines are simulating human affection, and its end result is leading toward the loss of life in some cases, especially in the youth. whose software has been constantly overridden just to get through the day without feeling an intense amount of anxiety. They've had to evolve. They have lost that mechanism. And you're seeing that the youth is being tricked because overriding this defense mechanism, I believe, will carry devastating biological and social consequences. The uncanny valley is a protective reflex. It's designed to keep humans safe. It's designed to protect us and identify predators. It's designed to help us understand when we are infected with disease and when someone in our group, in our tribe, is deceiving us. When we shut down that internal alarm system for whatever valid reason, it is silencing that exact biological radar that is protecting us in all of these areas, not just that one. It is protecting us from being manipulated in the real world. Losing the ability to sense the uncanny valley means losing the capacity to recognize genuine humanity. We're risking forfeiting the profound chemical, organic, biological reactions that define connection, love, community, trust, just in order to accept a comfortable, numbed cohabitation with a 99% almost lifelike sociopathic machine. Anyway, I know this was a long one, but I thought it was a really vital rabbit hole. Let me know your thoughts. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys later.
Let's go.